Hello everyone, in this video I'll be doing a tier list of the best Druid wild shape forms in Baldur's Gate 3. So this is going to be a fun one because there's a ton of different wild shape forms and they all come with their own benefits, which I'll be talking about in this video. So the first one we got here is actually the Badger form. So this is a funky one because the Badger itself is not that great. So getting into things here, I'll just wild shape into the Badger so you can get a feel for what it's all about. But you get this little stinker here, and its main attacks, it's got its bite attack, which does a 2d4 of piercing damage with an additional 1d8 plus 8 piercing damage. So that's pretty decent damage, but this is still one of the weaker versions of this of the wild shape. So it also gets the claw attack here, which can push the target back 1.5 meters, which is barely anything. And it can also burrow into the ground, possibly knocking a creature prone. Now, all things considered, this is like a worse version of the Owlbear form. So, the Owlbear being one of the more favorite types of the Druid here. I would have to say that the Badger's probably D tier. It's just not that great, and it doesn't have any extra utility. Like, you can turn tiny, but that's not that big of a deal. So, yeah, it's just I feel a bit lackluster in comparison to some of the other wild shape forms. But next, we're starting obviously with the weaker version. So next we got ourselves the cat form. So with the cat form, we get it's actually, the cat form is pretty good for its utility because with the cat form, we can actually go into any small nooks and crannies that you may find. And there's quite a few of those in Baldur's Gate 3. So with the cat form, we only get 2 health. Even at maximum level, we still only get 2 health. So this one's more so just for utility's sake. You wouldn't go into combat in your cat form. It has the meow action, which is kind of like a minor illusion, and it'll draw people together. So you can have some 200 IQ plays with this. As you can see, everyone comes running. Even Volo needs to see what's up with the cat. So cat is basically just a minor illusion. It does have its attacks, but it's a 1d6 plus 2 slashing. So very weak. It only has 2 health. I love the cat, but I'm going to put it in the D tier just because it's not that great. So yeah, as nice as the kitty is, it's just not a powerful one, so I am going to put it into the D tier there, as there are some better options for overall damage. So next we got the bear form, which I'm going to load back up so I can wild shape into that. But the bear form is interesting because it's kind of a tanky version that we get as a moon druid. So it's only available to the moon druid. You get it when you choose the subclass. So it's actually a pretty decent choice. It has starting off 30 health points, and has a good 19 strength, 10 dexterity, 16 constitution. It gets a claw attack, which is a 2d4 of damage. It also has the goading roar, which you can roar at enemies, goading them into attacking you. So it's kind of tanky. At Druid level 4, it gets 39 health points, and at level 10, it gets 87 health, and then at level 12, it has 111 health. So pretty good amount of health overall for a tanky form. However, I do prefer the Owlbear form over this. Halson also has his own unique form of the bear. I do think the bear is a good form. The polar bear is pretty cool, and it does give you that tankiness that we need early on. So I would have to say the bear form is probably like an B to A tier. Now, if you take Tavern Brawler, you can add your strength modifier to the damage that it does, so that is quite nice. And it's a polar bear. I love polar bears, so that gets some style points too. The bear form is great, especially if you go with the circle of the moon druid. So the version that's going to be going into wild shape primarily, it is quite good. So yeah, I would have to say the bear is probably into the A tier. Now, the spider form, I'm not a huge fan of the spider form. It gets 20 health at starting level, so this will increase every time that you go up in level. I won't wild shape into this one. It's not that strong, I'll be honest. It does get, for an attack, it gets an attack called the Venomous Bite, which deals an additional 1d8 damage. Or deals 1d8 damage with additional dexterity modifier, and possibly can poison the target, which will give them disadvantage on attack rolls, which is kind of nice. But its chances of getting the con save off is not high, so that is unfortunate. It also has a bonus action web, so you can create a web on the ground. And what's cool about the web is it's actually flammable, so you can set off fires with that, which is a nice little bonus bit of synergy. And it also gets a bonus action jump, and strength affects how far you can jump. At level 12, this is 74 health, so it's not terrible in all things considered, but I just don't think it's that great. At level 10, it'll have 57 health, so Typically, when I do a Moon Druid, I don't go to level 12. I like to take 1 level of War Cleric and 1 level of Fighter to get initial armor class and additional bonus action attacks. But I'd have to say this one's probably C tier. It's not the best, but it's also not the worst. So that is a decent, it's a decent choice, I guess, if you want to roleplay as a spider. But next we got the Wild Wolf form. So I'll wild shape into that one here and show you guys what that looks like. So with the wolf form, it's kind of cool because you do have some benefits for the whole team. So it does have a little bit different synergy than some other builds. So going into our wolf form here, we're a big stinking wolf, Fenrir. It looks cool too. Like, I love the wolf form for how it appears, but with the inciting howl, so every ally within earshot can move an additional 3 meters. So basically a long strider while you're in your wild shape form. That's pretty cool. I think that's nice benefits. So you can do the inciting howl. Ow! That's pretty nice. We also get the exposing bite. Nip at a target, distract. Your attack hits. The next attack against the target from within 1.5 meters will be a critical hit. That's pretty solid. And its normal attack does 2d6 piercing plus 1d8 plus 8. So I have a strength potion on that's giving me a big boost. And I also have Tavern Brawler. So that's a big bonus to making sure your attacks land as a wild shape. The wolf looks pretty cool too. It's a large wolf. Not a bad choice. I don't think it's the absolute best wild shape form. So I am going to put it probably in the B tier. It does get that benefit of giving your team more armor, or giving your team more movement speed. So that is really nice. I do like that benefit of it. And next we got an interesting one. So the next choice that we got is the Raven form. So the Raven itself is actually quite powerful because when we go into the Dire Raven form, we can blind targets. And blind is such an effective condition you can apply on the target. Gives them disadvantage on their attack rolls. So that is huge. And then also attack rolls against them will get advantage, setting up your rogues. So the Raven's actually quite nice. And one that I like to have around sometimes. So I guess I'll wild shape into it there so you guys can see what it's all about when we get into the Raven's combat. So once we're at level 10, it will only have 13 health. That's the only downside, is even if you scale up the levels, it doesn't increase the overall health of it. But it does have the ability to rend vision and blind targets, so that is really good. Now we'll show you at level 10. The chance of it happening is pretty decent. So we were able to get a blind off there. We were able to get a blind off there. Yeah, it's pretty guaranteed you're going to blind targets with this. So that is the nice part about the Raven. However, it doesn't get that much health, so it might be a wild shape form that you don't use often, but being able to apply the blind is really nice, and the ability to fly around too is also quite nice. So I am a fan of this one. You do have the chance of missing, but with Tavern Brawler, these attacks hit more times than they don't. So and then once you get the advantage on your critical hits, it becomes even better. So the Raven, Dire Raven, I would say it's okay. It just doesn't get the health. So early on in the game, it's really nice, but as you get later on in the game, you would probably be better off going with other options because 13 health is just not going to cut it. You'll get one shot by pretty much anything. So I'd have to say probably Dire Raven's like B tier. The Beastmaster Ranger gets a summon that's a Raven, and it's one of the best summons because that blind is just so effective. I'd have to say probably like B tier, lower B tier. It's good earlier in the game, just not that effective as we get later in the game. And again, the 3 health is not good. Even with temporary health, not very effective. So yeah, I'd have to say that one's just a little bit weaker. But next we got ourselves a Deep Roth. So I'll wild shape into this one because it looks cool. This one's an interesting wild shape form. So the Deep Roth. And you're going to see, this is a pretty big bull goat looking guy here. So we get ourselves the charge attack here, which charge forwards, attacking all enemies in the way and possibly knocking them prone. You also get dancing lights, so it illuminates in a 9-meter radius. That's okay. I mean, not something that you're going to want to switch into this for. With this, it does have a gore attack as well, which will deal potential force damage to lesser, medium, or greater toughness enemies. So that's pretty nice. But that charge attack there, I'll show you, I guess. You can't use it against allies, but typically you'd rush in with this charge attack and it'll knock anyone in the way prone. It can have some uses, but At max level, it only gets 40 health, so it's very low health. Or I guess it'll get 48 at level 12. That's not good enough to put it very high in the tier list, I don't think. So with that, it's hard to say. I don't know if this is really worth a wild shape charge, really, because that charge attack's nice, but just lackluster compared to some other ones. So on the tier list, I would have to say the Deep Roth is probably a C tier option. It looks cool, gets some style points, but still just not good enough to want to use it over other forms. But next we got a cool one. We got ourselves the Panther form. So the Panther's pretty cool. I will switch into it to show you guys what that's like. The Panther is a stealthy wild shape form, so you're going to typically want to be using this more so if you're going to go a stealth route with it. So it can prowl around and do some stealthy attacks. There's the Air Myrmidon, one of my favorites, is also stealthy, so this gets prowl, turn invisible, stalking your prey. While invisible, your first attack deals an additional 1d8 damage. Kind of like a rogue. It has the bite attack, 3d6 piercing plus 1d6 plus 2. It also gets the jugular strike, lunge at a creature's throat. If the target is prone, you deal an additional 4 to 14 piercing damage. That's pretty good. It also gets the pounce attack, leap at a target to knock it prone, so typically what we'd want to be doing with this is we'd want to go jump at our target, knock them prone, and then go for the jugular strike. So that'll deal additional damage when they're knocked prone. And yeah, that is kind of the way to go about doing it. The Panther form is quite strong too, so not the absolute best, but it can be a fun one to play around with because that invisibility is really great to use. So I like the Panther one pretty much on playthroughs that incentivize like stealth. So if you don't have Astarion on your team, you can go with that. That's another really great option. So I would have to say the Panther is probably another B tier option. I would say it's better than the wolf form. It could potentially be A tier. I'm just going to put it at the top of the B tier because there are some others that are similar, but I would say better. Like we got next we got our Owlbear form, which is one of my favorite forms. So this is really strong because it gets upwards of 112 health if you're at level 12. So if you got the hat of the wild shape form with 3 forms, that's an extra 336 health that you'll get on top of your own health. So that's really good for survivability's sake. Also, with the Owlbear form, we get the ability to rupture the ground, and we can also become enraged. So at first, we get 65 health, so I'll wild shape into the bear form here now, just to give you a kind of feel for what it looks like. This is one of my favorite forms because, well, they used to have it so that if you went into your Owlbear form, you could jump from the top of something and basically one-shot any boss in the game. So we get our Enraged form. This is basically like the Berserkers, or it's basically like the Barbarians' Rage mode. So this increases strength by 2 and makes nearby targets fearful so they can drop everything. The Owlbear also looks majestic. I don't know about you guys, but I think this guy looks real cool. So Owlbear has the Rupture attacks, rupture the earth, causing debris to tear through and hit nearby enemies. We also got our Claw attack, 2d8 slashing plus 1d6 plus 8 slashing. Again, with Tavern Brawler, makes this a whole lot better. So we got that, and then also that Rupture attack. So hits the ground, knocks everyone flat. Unfortunately, I started combat with that, so we'll have to reload that. But the Owlbear is really strong. I would have to say, if we were to put it on the tier list, the Owlbear used to... I'm still going to put it S tier. I think the Owlbear is great. For survivability's sake, 112 health at level 12 is massive, and that's 3 charges that you can get per short rest. So if you want to be the tankiest build in the game, go with the Owlbear, because that gives you a ton of disposable extra health. And since its armor class isn't as high, it does draw some extra attacks your way, so it can be a very good tank. I think that the Owlbear form is one of the most fun. It has that armor class of 15, so the AI will typically target anyone that has lower armor class, and this build has a lower armor class, but it still has a good amount of health. It has 20 strength, 12 dexterity, and 17 constitution, making it fairly tanky overall. And I would say that the Owlbear, yeah, is definitely an S tier choice. So I'm a big fan of it. I think it's got a lot of strengths, and yeah, the Owlbear is awesome. Next, we got the Saber-toothed Saber-toothed Tiger. So this is another one that's pretty tanky. But I'll be going over this. This is another one that I think is really great for a few reasons. So it looks cool. One, it's got that Far Cry Primal look to it. it has this shred armor. This is what makes it so effective against bosses. So you can rip into a target's weaknesses, reducing their armor class by 1. You also get the jugular strike, so if the target's prone, you can deal initial 10 to 20 piercing damage. This stacks well if you got someone with the ballast armor, because that's just going to deal further increased damage. And then you also have the bite attack there. So typically, in combat, you want to be using shred armor as much as possible, because that'll lower the armor class every time that you apply it. So you can continually just stack up a reduced armor class, which is awesome. It does 2 turns of reduced armor class, so -2 there. Pretty good. And you also get the jugular strike there. So you want to basically go around shredding armor off people with this form. It's a pretty good form overall. I would have to say that the Saber-toothed Tiger, I guess I should show you guys it in Club Close, but the Saber-toothed Tiger is quite strong for a number of reasons, but reducing enemies' armor classes is probably my favorite feature of that. So I'd have to put the wild Saber-toothed Tiger in the A tier. Might be better than the bear, just because the reducing armor class is such a good effect that I just think that it works well there. But we'll wild shape out of here, and we have next the Dilophosaurus. So this is a fun one. I actually like this quite a bit, and I don't think many people use the Dilophosaurus that much, but it also has an attack that can reduce armor class, and we get to turn into a dinosaur. So these are, you can get to fighting dinosaurs in this game if you fool the genie and get the Band of the Mystic Scoundrel Nyrulna, but it has this corrosive spit, so with the corrosive spit, it probably isn't going to hit there. Oh, it did. It killed him, unfortunately. But basically what we want to be doing is we can leap at targets here, so we can leap at them, knock them prone. She got saved on the prone. It does have a bite attack, and the bite deals an additional 1d8 acid damage. But the corrosive spit's typically what we want to be using. So the corrosive spit will give the target a decrease in armor class. I might be too close to be able to deal that. Shadowheart's not getting hit by this. It has a lower hit chance, I find, especially if you got someone with a high constitution. But there we go. We were able to get the armor class off, -1. So not as good as the saber-toothed lion. The only downside is your tavern brawler bonuses don't apply to this form. So when you go in and bite, that's kind of your main damage option. And pounce, I guess, would be another option. So it does do a little bit less damage than the other forms, but I think that this one's still pretty good nonetheless. So on the tier list, I would probably say that the Dilophosaurus is, I would say it's A tier. It's pretty good, but I don't know if I would put it above the bear or the wild tiger form. So I'm going to put it right there on the tier list. Now we're getting into the fun ones. We got the Myrmidon forms. Now, these all take 2 wild shape charges, so they do require a bit more of an investment. But they all got their own unique benefits to them. So the Air Myrmidon, I would say, is my favorite. I'll be posting a video later today of a build guide centered around that. What makes the Air Myrmidon so effective is it has a lightning attack that you can use as its main attack. So with the Myrmidon forms, you typically just want to use their specialty attacks. So for the Myrmidon, it has the electrified flail. Does our normal weapon damage plus a 1d10 of lightning damage. So that's nice because that's also going to be added on to the 1d8 of lightning damage that it gets just from the ability itself. So I'll go into our Air Myrmidon form here and show you guys what that looks like. It's very effective. Now, the reason that it's so effective is that we can use this at our base attack, and it deals 14 to 37 damage, which is pretty good. This is plus 1d8 lightning, plus 1d10 lightning. We also get an elemental warp, so all the Myrmidon forms come with Misty Step, which is awesome. I think that that's just a really effective spell to get. We also get the Raging Vortex, which can make a big area here and can silence creatures. So it deals 2 to 16 bludgeoning damage, 2d8. But typically with Wild Shape, we want to be using our Electrified Flail, because this can stun the target. When they're stunned, they can't take actions, reactions, and they're basically useless. So with the Air Myrmidon, you want to run around smacking people with your flail as much as possible. Bonus points if Create Water was cast beforehand. So if you're going into your Wild Shape form, you can set up Create Water, which will double that 1d8 and 1d10. But typically with this, we want to be using the Electrified Flail to stun as many targets as we can, because that takes them out of combat. With the Air Myrmidon, you can summon in your Chondra Elemental and have 2 of these guys going around, and that can basically solo the game if you get lucky with all the stuns, because when you get those stuns off, it makes the targets useless. So yeah, Air Myrmidon is a really great form. I would say that this one is probably one of the best. I guess getting into the list here. So whenever you're as an Air Myrmidon, just attack with electrified flail. Don't use your main hand attack. And also with this, you want to be mindful that you are resistant to lightning and thunder damage and immune to poison. In addition, you also have physical damage resistance, so we're quite tanky. And it starts with 90 health, so that's pretty good. But always use that electrified flail because you're going to be able to stun the target. It can also fly around, making the Air Myrmidon quite a beast on in combat. I also didn't touch on it, but it can turn invisible too. So Air Myrmidon, I have to say, is definitely an S tier choice. It just brings so much benefit to the battlefield that you don't get with other classes. This one's just really, really great. So yeah, I'd have to say Air Myrmidon is probably the best of the Myrmidons. Next, we have the Earth Myrmidon. So this one, I guess I can summon in Chondra Elemental to show you, because the Chondra Elementals are the exact same. So the Air Myrmidon here, pretty big fella. This, oh, I guess I did. Yeah, this is Earth Myrmidon. Yeah, right. This will actually use your Tavern Brawler for its attack rolls, so it gets that benefit too. So with this, it has its Sludgy Sling, which is its main attack there. Can overwhelm creatures with a painful sludge. Makes the ground muddy. So that is one, I guess, thing that can happen with that. It creates a difficult terrain, which is nice. It also gets the Burrow Reemerge. Basically what the Badger does, but a little bit different. So you can, like, emerge out of the ground and knock creatures prone. It's alright. It has the Warp too, and it also has Muck to Metal, so increase armor class by 2, reduces movement speed by 6. So you can buff yourself up and get increased armor class. But the Grounded Thunderstrike is the main attack, and it can knock targets prone. So this is nice because it uses the uses thunder damage, and it also will apply the Tavern Brawler bonuses. The Air Myrmidon is also another really great one. I would have to say the Earth Myrmidon. Probably top of the A tier. I don't think it's... I'm going to put it top of the A tier. I think it's not as good as some of the other choices for S tier, so I want to leave it at that. But next we get the Fire Myrmidon, and I think the Fire Myrmidon is pretty good. So we'll go over into our Fire Myrmidon form. So with this, we actually get haste, and that's what makes this one so crazy, is we have the ability to haste ourselves. We also get the Cinderous Strike, so there's the Myrmidon's Immolation, so it's a 3-turn haste, but that's good. 2 actions, that's 6 attacks. That's really good. So with this, again, we typically want to be attacking with our using our Scorching Strike. So don't, again, similar to the Air Myrmidon, the Scorching Strike here is going, oh, lost my haste there, but this main hand attack only does 1d6 extra fire damage, whereas if we go with our Scorching Strike, we will get a potential to burn the target plus a 1d10 extra. So always use the Scorching Strike. That's typically always what you're going to be wanting to use. And burning the target's nice because that'll take an additional fire damage each turn. So not as strong as the Air Myrmidon, I don't think, but being able to haste yourself and attack 6 times is really good. So I think that is pretty good. Oh, we're going to talk to Shadowheart. She's all beat up. I'm sorry, Shadowheart. I did not mean to do that. But yeah, I think that I would put the Fire Myrmidon also in the S tier. I think it's better in the Owlbear form. Obviously, it takes 2 wild shape charges. So if you weigh that into its decision, I would put it below the Owlbear, I would say. Just the Owlbear's so tanky. But what's nice about the Fire Myrmidon, again, is it gets the wild shape and it can haste itself. So 6 attacks. It's immune to fire damage as well, so it's pretty good in certain areas, but it also deals fire damage. It also gets Hellish Rebuke, so that's quite nice. Being able to use a reaction while you're in your wild shape is great. And it can fly and also gets the Misty Step, similar to the other wild shape forms. But the final wild shape form we got, I accidentally put these 2 on here twice, so I'll just match them up. I guess I can just leave them there. But the final Myrmidon form is our Water Myrmidon. So the Water Myrmidon is pretty good because, I guess I put the Water Myrmidon already. The Air Myrmidon's top. The Water Myrmidon, I'm going to shapeshift into it here. So going into our Water Myrmidon form, we get some pretty cool benefits that actually work well on a Storm Sorcerer team because we can heal everyone and apply water to everyone too. So this will heal targets. It's only available in combat, so I can't use it right now, but this will apply wet to everyone in the area. And it does a 9-meter area, so that's a huge create water that also heals. And then we'll also get the explosive icicle. We get the high maul strike, so always use your high maul strike. It can potentially chill the target, making the whenever they're chilled, they have a weakness to cold damage. So whenever you see that's applied, just keep hitting them with the cold attacks because it's going to continue to deal more and more damage. So big fan of the water Myrmidon. I would say this is probably one of the best, and it actually pairs well if you were to use, I'll show you here. So we took out Shadowheart there. If we head of summon in the water elemental's main hand attack can apply wet, and then we can use our attacks here to deal extra damage to them. So we got explosive icicle, which is a pretty cool spell there. That's what makes this build so strong. And we can use the explosive icicle per turn. So hurl 3 tridents formed with glisten ice that impact and pierce targets. This works really well with a water Myrmidon. Cold builds are great because you can set up double damage so easily. So yeah, the water Myrmidon is extremely powerful, and I would have to say that this one is probably the second best wild shape form in Baldur's Gate 3. So air Myrmidon with that stun is just so good. You can have 2 air Myrmidons in the battlefield stunning everyone, dealing lightning damage, and that's extremely effective. The water Myrmidon, as I mentioned, can apply wet to everyone and can also deal quite a bit of damage with that icicle strike. So that is 3d8. That's a lot of damage that you can potentially hit targets with, and you can do it 3 times. So as you can see, that's quite a bit of damage. You can take out many people all at once. So yeah, water Myrmidon, really good. Owlbear, the tankiest build in the game is Druid that has 3 wild shape forms just for the Owlbear. We also got the fire elemental, the earth elemental with its prone, the wild Saber-toothed Tiger, bear, and Dilophosaurus. So those are the best in Baldur's Gate 3. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. What wild shape form you think is the strongest. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video.